Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Season 7, Episode 9, overall 339 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday, November 29th. -6 here in Guelph right now. We had a little bit of snow, but winter is definitely coming, and I'm looking forward to my guest today. This will be his first appearance on my show. His name is Baligian. He is a longtime radio personality in Detroit, and he's currently on WJR 760, and he's also a co-host of the Sports Wrap show on WJR 760, weeknights from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. with former Lion great Lomas Brown, and he's also a part of the morning show with Paul W. Smith on WJR 760. And he also hosts the Darren McCarty Show Friday nights on WJR 760 as well. We're going to bring Sean on here and talk a little Wolverines, a little Red Wings, and a bit about the Detroit Pistons, unfortunately, who are off to their worst start. Good morning, Sean. How you doing?
It's great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me. How are you, pal?
Good. Thank you so much. I see you got your Michigan State Spartans hat on.
Yeah, you know what? Tough season football-wise, but obviously looking to turn the page. Really happy that they brought Jonathan Smith in, and, the basketball team, coaches always gets the guys going. And for the college hockey fans out there, obviously Michigan State flying from the hockey standpoint. Coach Nightingale's got them going, but yeah, a lot of good things going on in the Detroit area, to be sure, Chris.
Hey, Michigan to me is not just a hockey town. I call it a hockey state.
Yeah. It's, you know what? The one thing that I really miss on a personal level is, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or your audience. I worked for the Plymouth Whalers for many years, and boy, I miss that. That was so much fun. It really was. And, the good news is for people that like the OHL, you can still go over to Windsor, you can go over to Sarnia, you can go to Flint, you can go to Saginaw, but that was pretty cool to have it in the Detroit area and make some of the trips that I did, and always loved going to Guelph. That was always a fun trip to make, to go see the Storm and everything. But you're right. The college hockey, we have the NTDP right in our backyard. It's there's a lot in regards to hockey. And I'll tell you what, the high schools are really picking it up, and there's some really good play out there. So if you're a hockey fan, a lot of options in the Detroit area.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Sean, before we get to the Wolverines. Can you see the OHL in the future coming back to Michigan? Obviously, the OHL has 3 U.S. teams, 2 in Michigan and 1 in Erie. Do you see the Detroit area eventually, possibly in the future, getting another OHL franchise?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think there was a window, and the window passed. And I think, when you see what the Spirit are doing, I mean, heck, they've got the Memorial Cup in the spring, obviously, and you see what Flint's doing, and right across the bridge, Windsor. I don't think there's a place for it now in Detroit. The NTDP has really put its footprint down, and it's a good product. There's no doubt about that. The USHL, and you can't argue with what the NTDP is doing. I mean, they're just producing players left and right. But I think with all that being said, I don't think there's any room on the plate for another OHL team in the Detroit area. I'd love to be wrong. That would be cool if I would be wrong, but boy, I just can't see it. I think there's already too much of a saturation.
Okay. Hey, I'm involved with the National Lacrosse League. It's indoor box lacrosse league, and I cover the Buffalo Bandits and the Toronto Rock. I was gonna say Detroit, I think would be great for a National Lacrosse League team. I think they had one in the '90s, but I really think it would be great to have that product at Little Caesars Arena.
Oh, it would be awesome. See, I'm old enough to remember when the Turbos were there, and that was such a great watch. That was really a fun watch. And, you had the legendary Gate brothers and Sawicki and that and everything. That's another sport, Chris, that has really blown up in our area. It really has. And again, I go to the high school level. So the high school levels are very, very competitive. Brother Rice, I think everybody knows about the legendary program that Brother Rice has. I mean, they've been outstanding, but I would say it was about 10 years ago where a lot of young people around here, including my own son, made the choice of jumping from playing football to playing lacrosse. And it was amazing how many kids did that in the area that we live. We're in Northville, which is a suburb of Detroit. And it was amazing how many kids made that jump, and the numbers continue to grow. It's really growing in this area, to be sure, kind of the grassroots level with a lot of the kids making that jump.
Yeah, it's a combination of hockey and a little bit of basketball, and I just love the physicality of the sport. And these guys, they don't make a lot of money, but they're such great athletes. And I'm just glad to be part of that league and the Buffalo Bandits. And John Tavares, who was Wayne Gretzky of lacrosse, is their head coach, and he's just whatever he does, he's a winner.
Yeah, I'm sure that Tyler Sagan just loved lacrosse. That was something that he loved doing, and he loved playing. And so many of those kids, as they came through Plymouth as Whalers, were big lacrosse guys. And I don't think a lot of people, understand how many of the hockey players also not only dabbled in lacrosse but excelled in lacrosse.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sean, since I have you on this morning, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Wolverines, the Red Wings, a little bit of news with them, and unfortunately the Pistons, who are off to the worst start in franchise history. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about Michigan's, just quick thoughts on Michigan's 30-24 win over Ohio State at the Big House on Saturday.
It was one of the most legendary editions of the game that I remember. And, even though I'm wearing the hat that I'm wearing, I am a college football fan, and I think that we have to hold our college football traditions very close to the vest. And Ohio State, Michigan is a legendary tradition. I mean, there's a reason why it's called the game. And it was one of the most captivating editions of the game that I can remember. I mean, not just from the stakes, but all the storylines behind the scenes. And, for it to go down to the very end like it did, I think it's going to be a game that we all remember. I'm not surprised at the result. I think Michigan has looked like the best team in the Big Ten all year. I think they've looked like one of the best teams nationally all year long. I think this Michigan team is different, whereas the last couple years, obviously, let's put it bluntly, they were overmatched by Georgia. And then last year, the crazy game against TCU. I think Michigan's got a real good chance, Chris. I really do. I think they've got a real good chance to make a run and make a serious dent come college football playoff time.
My only concern as a fan, Sean, is JJ McCarthy. I like him, but is the passing game going to be good enough? Obviously, they're playing Iowa and they're favored to win that. But let's say they get past Iowa. Is JJ McCarthy and the passing game good enough to compete with those other schools?
It's $1 million question. I remember those questions coming into the game last year, and then they threw all over Ohio State. And then obviously we saw what we did with TCU. I mean, does he have the weapons in mass at wide receiver is a big question. Boy, he's got a tremendous tight end. Make no mistake about that. But I think it's a situation when they need to do it, they'll do it. I mean, we've seen them do it in the past. So let's see if that comes to fruition this time around as well.
Okay. Hey, my cousins in Taylor, Michigan, Mike and Terry, are the one that turned me into a Detroit sports fan. Red Wings, Pistons, Tigers, Wolverines. Never been a Lions fan. Love Barry Sanders. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, but I root for all the Detroit teams other than the Lions. And they took me to a Michigan Wolverines game at the Big House in 2004 against Iowa, and what an experience that was.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, I don't care who you root for. I mean, the Big House is one of the most venerable places in college football. The atmosphere there before the game and during the game is incredible. And say what you want about rivalries. Whether it be as Spartans or the Buckeyes. I think there's a level of respect when you bring up Michigan. And look, after such a down period, I think college football is a better place when Michigan is doing well. I really do. And, they had a long period of time, not only during the Rich Rod era, but the Brady Hoke era, where they were kind of wandering in the wilderness. But say what you will about Jim Harbaugh, he certainly brought them back.
Absolutely. And then also the rivalry with Michigan State will be better when Michigan State is strong as well, when both schools are strong at the same time. Tremendous program. And one of my friends, Bess McLeod, who used to be a broadcaster in Detroit, is a huge Spartans fan.
Yeah, you know what? It was quite an era, and it seemed to go by too quickly. I think people forget how well Mark D'Antonio did there. I mean, the 2013 team is one that will always stick out. I mean, they beat everybody in the conference by double digits. How often do you see that in a conference like the Big Ten? I mean, they beat everybody by double digits, and culminated with the trip out to Pasadena. And I was fortunate enough to be out there and watch them beat Stanford, and then turned around and won the Big Ten again in 2015, going into Ohio State, winning a game there. But listen, this is why it's so important to get the right guy to be your coach. I mean, you saw it. I brought it up earlier. You bring in Rich Rod and you saw him go like that. And then you bring in Brady Hoke. And after some initial success, you saw it go like that. So certainly I think I can speak for a lot of Spartan fans when I say that you're hoping that Jonathan Smith is the answer. And dare I say the next Mark D'Antonio.
Fingers crossed. I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. Jim Harbaugh, does he go back to the NFL, or do you think he'll stay at Michigan for a while yet?
I think that he's eventually going to make the jump. I really do. And I know he says he's not going to, but I think he will. I think there's just been so much outside of his program going on and the stuff with the NCAA. I think a guy as prominent as Coach Harbaugh, who has an opportunity to jump, is probably, this is just opinion. This is not inside information, anything like that.
Yeah.
Enough. I don't want to deal with this NC2A stuff. I don't want to deal with a lot of the parameters that are in play in the NCAA. But yeah, to answer your question, I have a feeling he'll end up in the NFL soon, as a matter of fact.
I just remember a couple years ago, the Wolverines fan base wanted him gone, fired.
Amazing, isn't it? I mean, really, after 2020, I mean, there were a lot of people that thought 2021 was going to be the swan song and there was going to be this mutual parting. It's amazing what winning can do, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm also going to ask you another question, Sean, too. Obviously, you've seen some great running backs with Michigan State and Michigan. In terms of running backs, all-time great running backs in college football and in the state of Michigan, where is Blake Corum up there?
Boy, you got to include his name. I mean, you really do. I think, what comes to, I think Mike Hart had a tremendous college football career, if you remember. I'm going way back in the time machine. Lorenzo White at Michigan State. Kenneth Walker was just that 1 year, but what a magical year it was for Michigan State. I mean, he was near unstoppable. But yeah, I think you put Blake Corum in that conversation, to be sure. I mean, he just runs so hard, and you saw it on Saturday. I mean, how many times when Michigan had a third down, they just found a way. And that's so disheartening for a team. That's so disheartening for a defense. And, Blake Corum was obviously a huge part of that. So, boy, I'd put him up there with just about anybody that I saw. And I think that's a high compliment when you think of the caliber of running backs that we've seen at certainly both schools over the years.
I'm still an old school football fan. I love the passing game, but I still love the old running game. And there's some similarities between Michigan and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm a huge Eagles fan, and it all starts with the O line and the D line, and then you built your teams from there. And I think Jim Harbaugh and the school has done a great job doing that. And I just think it's great to have a not just a one-dimensional offense, but an offense where you can run the ball as well. And it's so huge on those third downs.
Yeah, I think no doubt about that. Listen, and I don't think the Michigan offensive line has played as well as they're capable of. I mean, there were a lot of people that came in and thought, look at that line. You got a bunch of first rounders on that line. I mean, they've been good, but I think there's a next level there yet. I really, truly do. But you're absolutely right. I think that's been a testament to a lot of the really good teams. And, I hate to do it again, but I'll go back to Mark D'Antonio's championship teams. They controlled the line of scrimmage, both the offensive line and the defensive line. It's such an integral part in so many things that you want to do start with making sure you take care of business in the trenches.
Absolutely. This leads to my next question, Sean. What are your thoughts on the offensive coordinator, Sharon Moore's job as the OC this year and the absence of Jim Harbaugh?
Boy, I'll tell you what, his name became a hot name. There's no doubt about it. I think a lot of people have said, this could be the heir apparent to Jim Harbaugh whenever Jim Harbaugh decides to leave, whether it be sooner or whether it be later. I don't think that Jim Harbaugh is going to be there a long time. I really don't, one way or the other. But at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of people, and you saw a lot of articles like this kind of pop up in the aftermath of this latest edition of the game saying, hey, Michigan's got their guy if he wants to be there. I think everybody saw his outburst. I think stuff like that is great. It depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on. Usually I think stuff like that's great. This is a guy that loves his coach. He loves the school that he's at. He loves his kids. It shows that he cares, but make no mistake about it. This is a guy whose stock has improved as the season has gone on, and stepping into those big shoes that he had to fill, Coach Harbaugh's shoes. You got to give him credit for doing that, and especially winning the games that he did.
It looks like the stability for the Wolverines is going to be good in the future, even if Harbaugh does leave as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, isn't that what you want to do? You want to build a program. You don't want to have, just a series of years and everything. You want to build a program where you can have long lasting success and have it, just plug and play. And it's easier said than done, but certainly Michigan looks like they've done a lot of the groundwork to try to get that going.
Absolutely. A couple years ago, that team was just built to beat Ohio State, and everything else was a bonus. But I feel now in the third year that this team is not just beating Ohio State. They want to get to the national championship game and win it.
No doubt. I'll reiterate. I think this team's different than the last couple of years. I mean, they weren't going to beat Georgia. You knew that 2 years ago. I think TCU surprised everybody a little bit last year. But I don't think anybody thought, well, maybe we'll beat TCU, but they're not going to beat Georgia. This is wide open this year. I mean that. If Oregon finds a way to knock off Washington, I actually think they will. I don't know if I'd want anything to do with Oregon right now, the way that Bo Nix is going. And, there's another level there for Georgia. So I don't want to make it sound like it's a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. But, it'll be interesting because I think Michigan has as good a chance as anybody. I mean, look, Georgia is on a historic pathway right now. Make no mistake about it. The opportunity to win 3 in a row. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to notice that this isn't like the dominant Georgia teams of the last couple of years. And that pressure that's been mounting is going to be huge come playoff time.
And this in football, college football, NFL, even the Canadian Football League. One game, anyone can be beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, take a look at the Alouettes this year. Who saw that coming? My goodness gracious. Yes. I mean, an incredible run by Montreal, but nobody saw that coming. And, you find a way, you get hot at the right time. And things can change.
Absolutely. And quick thoughts. We're going to wrap the Wolverines segment up here. Thoughts on the Big Ten Championship Saturday against Iowa, and what are some keys to a Michigan win over Iowa? And is there a chance they could have possibly a little bit of a letdown after beating Ohio State?
I just listen. I think you saw the same thing that I saw in college football. Sees the same thing that I'm about to say. I give full marks to Kirk Ferentz. How he was able to get that team back to Indianapolis is incredible. They just don't have anything offensively. I mean, they really don't. The defense has played well. Make no mistake about it. I don't think they've played, well against some of the higher echelon teams, but they found a way to win the games that they should. They just don't have anything offensively, especially after losing their starting quarterback. So to me, I think Michigan's going to roll them. I really do. I mean, no disrespect to Iowa, because you have to tip the cap to what Kirk Ferentz has done. But honestly, it is, you look at that side of the conference and this side of the conference, it really is. It's varsity and JV, and it's been that way for a long, long time.
I have Michigan winning this game 34-17.
I'm going to go 31-10. I just don't think Iowa has much offensively. And I think people are probably laughing at us saying that Iowa even gets a couple touchdowns, because they've been so tough to watch offensively. I'm trying to be as nice as I can there. I mean, it's been a brutal watch offensively, but you have to give them credit. They're finding a way to win football games.
They're going to be heavy underdogs. I think Michigan is favored by 23 points?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Again, I think it comes back to what they can't do offensively, and Michigan will grind you out, and they'll find a way to wear them down. And, maybe a 10-0 game becomes 24-0 in the blink of an eye or something like that. And then it's off to the races. But yeah, I like Michigan. I think they'll cover the spread. We'll see. The under is the big question. I think a lot of gamblers out there have been making a lot of money taking some Iowa unders, and let's see if that comes to fruition this weekend.
The Wolverines will be without one of their offensive linemen, Zach Zenter. I guess he broke his fibula. I guess to Ohio State. How big of a loss is that?
Yeah, it's a big loss, and I mean, just a brutal injury. You hate to see that for a kid that was going to go pro, and it still has the opportunity to do so. Make no mistake about it. But this is something that I'll use a line that we said earlier: plug and play. Next man up. Let's find a way to get in there, and it's a testament to this program that they have guys waiting in the wings and the opportunity to do that.
All right, Sean, we just got a few more minutes, so I wanted to ask you about the thoughts on the Detroit Red Wings signing former Blackhawk star Patrick Kane to a one-year deal at $2.75 million.
I think that it's a no-brainer to me. I mean, what does this hurt you? Let's look at both sides of it. Let's say that Patrick Kane isn't able to come back from this hip surgery. Well, what did you really lose? I mean, you're only spending about $2 million. It didn't cost you anything. So that's the negative side. What does that change? It doesn't change the long-term vision that Steve Yzerman has, the quote unquote 5-year plan. So I don't think it changes anything in that regard. If you look at the negative side, and the positive side is you have Patrick Kane. And if he can, reclaim what he's been over the years, that's a nice addition to your team. Perhaps not just for this year, but into next year, when I think a lot of people feel that the Red Wings are going to make the move. I don't think there's a negative side to this in any way, shape, or form. The only question to me is how well will it work? And the only one that has that answer is Patrick Kane. I think he'll fit in with this team nicely. Obviously he and Alex have a thing together in the past, but this is an exciting team right now. I don't think they're quite ready for prime time yet. I know a lot of Wings fans don't like to hear that. I don't think they're quite ready for prime time yet. But if Patrick Kane is the Patrick Kane that we remember, they might be ready for prime time. And the way that Alex Lyon has been playing as of late, is he the answer in net? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But I think this does nothing but make the Red Wings a better team in what is the toughest division in all of hockey. The Atlantic Division is just loaded. It seems like there's no easy night in the Atlantic Division.
I like the job Eiserman's doing. Is there a time frame when Kane will be in? I know the Red Wings played tonight against the New York Rangers and Chicago, ironically against Kane's former teams. But are they gonna like give Kane maybe like a week to get used to the team and get in the lineup?
I'm going to be intrigued to see that myself. I really, I don't know, Chris, how it's going to work itself out, how quickly he's going to come back. I know all along he didn't want to sign with the team until he felt like, there was the opportunity for him to come in and play. This is not an easy surgery. This is not an easy comeback, but my guess is, knowing the competitive fire of Patrick Kane, he wouldn't agree to this unless, he felt he was ready to go. So when go time is, I'm waiting like the rest of us.
Number 88. It's just like when Chelios became a Red Wing. It was like, never thought I'd see Chelios as the Red Wing, and same with Patrick Kane. And I know the Buffalo people were a little disappointed he didn't come to the Sabres, but I say it was a great addition by the Red Wings, and it's low risk as well.
Yep, no doubt.
And my last Red Wing question before we talk about the Pistons before I let you go is, what's your overall assessment quickly on this 23-24 Red Wings team and the job that Steve Yzerman has done so far?
I think it's a good team. I think it's a better team. I think it's a team that can probably make the playoffs, but they're not where he wants them to be yet. I go back to the day he was hired and, he said point blank, the goal is not just to get back in the playoffs. It's to compete the way this franchise was used to competing for so long. So I think, again, I use as a rule of thumb the 5-year plan. I think that's the smart, logical, methodical. Fans don't like it, but he was hired on April 19th, 2019. We're not even 5 years in yet. I have a feeling by the time next fall rolls around, that's going to be a team that is ready to make some damage.
I'm going to make a little prediction here. I really think this team, if they can stay healthy and they get goaltending, and even if Kane can produce a little bit, I think this team could squeak into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. And I wasn't so sure about that at the beginning of the year. I think this is a playoff team now. Now, what they can do once in the playoffs, that remains to be seen. But they're better. They're there. They're right there. A couple nip and tucks, and I think they're going to be ready to go.
Okay, and finally, before we wrap up the show, Sean, what are your thoughts on the Pistons 2-15 start, the worst in franchise history? And did anyone in Detroit see this coming, this bad of a start?
Not this bad. There's been a lot of back and forth about, are they going to take a step up, especially with a healthy Cade Cunningham? And this has been awful. There's no other way to say that. In fairness, there have been some injuries, but it's like watching a bad rerun. The same things keep happening, especially late in games. It seems like they get the doors blown off of them, and they have an opportunity. For people out there that aren't aware of this, they could go 0 for November. Think about that. This is a team that was 2-1 at one point in time, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe they'll take a little step up, and now they have a chance to go 0 for November. They've got the Lakers tonight. They've got the Knicks tomorrow. They lose both those games. You didn't win a game in November. That's crazy when you think about it. So there's a lot of pressure on this Pistons ownership right now. Again, I think a lot of people thought that Troy Weaver was the answer. I like Troy a lot. I like him personally. I like his methodical way of thinking, but certainly there's some, rumblings out there that maybe it's time to part ways with Troy Weaver.
Because you just brought in Monty Williams on a big contract, and there's no way you fire him after 16 games. So I'm assuming Troy Weaver right now with the Detroit media is starting to get onto the hot seat.
You're starting to hear it. On social media a lot and everything. And I want to reiterate, I like Troy. I think Troy knew what he was getting into when he took this job. I think he's been methodical with it. I think he knows that the only way to really truly rebuild is to do it through the draft. And unfortunately, it's just not happening, even with a budding star like Cade Cunningham.
And I do feel Monty Williams is a good head coach, and hopefully they can get this cleaned up. But I'm going to let you go, Sean. But before we let you go, I want to say thank you for coming on today. And where can my audience follow you on social media and your next sports wrap with Lomas Brown and the Darren McCarty Show?
Yeah, you know what? Lomas and I are on every night from 6 to 7 on WJR. Still doing some stuff locally with the television and all that stuff. And I'm on Twitter at Sean P. Bally and Facebook and all that stuff. I'm not as active as perhaps some other people. When I'm active, I'm really active. And then I go away from it for a few days. But yeah, it's a pleasure to talk with you. I appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you so much, Sean. And if you do come back on my show again in the future, I would maybe like to talk to you a little bit more about your Detroit Lions, who are looking like a playoff team and should win their division.
Yeah, they should. It's fun. The last couple of weeks, I don't know, against the Packers and against the Bears, but a chance to make everybody forget about that when they go down to New Orleans this Sunday.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on live with CDP Sports Talk, and I will send you an audio and video copy of our show later on.
My pleasure. All the best to you. Continued success.
Thank you so much, Sean. Have a great day.
Take care now.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Season 7, Episode 9 of Live with CDP Sports Talk with Sean Baligian from WJR 760. And he's also a morning host of the Paul W. Smith Show. And you can also tune into Sports Wrap with Sean and former Lions great Lomas Brown weeknights from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. as they talk Detroit sports. And he also hosts the Darren McCarty Show on WJR 760 every Friday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. as well. Check out their website too, WJR.com, or you can check out his Twitter page at Sean P. Bally on Twitter/X as well. All right, guys, before we wrap up this show, I had the pleasure of covering the Grey Cup a couple weeks ago in Hamilton, and I did a whole bunch of interviews with Winnipeg Blue Bombers staff and the Montreal Alouettes staff, and I did an interview with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defensive coordinator and former CFL player Richie Hall. WQEE 99.1 FM. I'm with the defensive coordinator with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Richie Hall. Richie, thoughts on your West final win on Saturday against the very good BC Lions team?
Well, I thought they played very well. We kind of got irritated with their Hail Mary at the end of the first half that we gave up that cheap touchdown. But I thought for the most part, the guys, they went out there and they won the football game. And they played very well, so I was really happy for their overall play.
What do you like about your defense going into this final against the Montreal Alouettes, and what challenges do the Alouettes offense present to your defense?
Well, I think what I like most is the confidence that they have. They know that there's some tough things that happened with us last week, but they never got rattled. They remained confident. They didn't lose hope, and they didn't get frustrated. So I think that's a good carryover as we go into the Grey Cup game. They feel very good about themselves. Not an arrogance good, but they just feel good and confident. And the challenges that Montreal has is they're playing very good football. They're a very good football team. They're a very physical football team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. So we have to be in our A game. They want to run the football. They got playmakers. They might not be the most, when people talk about them as far as throwing the ball all over the field, but they play within their culture, and it's going to be a tough game for us, and we have to be in our A game if we want to give ourselves a chance to be victorious, because they have a very good football team and they're very confident right now. And, so you got two confident teams coming together, and something's got to give. What's going to give? It's going to be one of those two or three plays of execution or making big plays or penalties that's going to decide it.
What's your thoughts on fourth straight Grey Cup for this Winnipeg Blue Bombers organization? And maybe just a little thought on head coach Mike O'Shea and your fellow coaching staff, the job that you guys have done with the players the last 4 years.
Well, I think we have a great group of players. They're very selfless. They're hard workers, and they're very characters. They enjoy being around each other. So as a coaching staff, I think that makes our job a lot easier because they're self-motivated, and it's just a matter of getting the pieces and putting them together, make that puzzle look like a nice picture. So over the last 4 years, could never imagine that we'd be here 4 years later, consecutive years. At the beginning of each year, that's what you strive to. You want to be in the Grey Cup. You want to be in the Grey Cup. But all of a sudden now we're here. And it's funny when you look back over, for myself, it's like, I can't believe it's been 4 years. Not saying that you never thought you wouldn't be, but the reality is we have been, and it's, gosh, I can't believe it, so it's a blessing, but it's a testament to those guys, and each year we've had a different group of guys. But the foundation of the guys that Coach O'Shea has brought in, and the guys have bought in to what he wants them to do, has been rewarding for them, and it's a great feeling.
Just quick thoughts on the fan base in Winnipeg and how much the fans mean to your team at the home games.
Oh, it's another person on the field. I think, over the last 2 years, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have led the CFL, and the attendance, that speaks for itself. We're the loudest stadium, so that's an extra advantage for us when we play at home, so we want to give them something to be proud of. We want to give them something to cheer about, and they have been very supportive for us, and can't express our appreciation. It's a thank you, and we just hope that we make them proud by our play.
All right, last question for you, Richie. What are a couple of keys to a win on Sunday against the very good Montreal team?
Controlling their running game, Steinbach, and minimizing their big playability with Fajardo and Mac. So again, the thing that we have to do is we have to be consistent from start to finish.
All right. Well, Richie, I want to say thank you so much for doing this, and good luck Sunday against the Montreal Alouettes in the 110th Grey Cup at Tim Hortons Fields.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that was Richie Hall, the defensive coordinator of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That was done on media day just before the Grey Cup. Montreal came back with 13 seconds left to win 28-24, but Richie Hall's done a great job with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as their defensive coordinator, and I'm assuming he'll be back there next year as well. Anyways, guys, the next Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, is going to be tomorrow, Thursday, November 30th at 2:20 p.m. Eastern with my guest, Adam. I can say it, Adam Baligian. He's a media personality, and he's on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus, covering the NFL's Washington Commanders. So Adam's going to come on and talk about the 2023 Washington Commanders, their new ownership in Joshua Harris, and where this franchise goes in the future. And we're also going to talk a little NFL news with Adam as well. So I hope everyone can tune into season 7 tomorrow, episode 10 with Adam Baligian from Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus show, covering the Washington Commanders as well. As always, Live with CDP Sports Talk is a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching my show this morning with Sean Baligian, live streamed as well. You can also follow my website and my media work and previous radio shows on beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports Talk is again sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or you can give them a call at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. And speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, gear up for fall at Barry Cullen with a 2023 Trailblazer like I have. 5.49% financing for 40 up to 48 months. Book a test drive today at barrycullen.com as well. And I am a huge fan of Chevy Trailblazers, and I really love my SRS model as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. I post a lot of content there, player, coaches interviews, and all my media work there. And I'm a content creator on TikTok, so at Live with CDP. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, such as myself, check out StreamYard.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, tuned in, and again, weeknights from 8 to 9 on WQEE in Metro Atlanta. You can also email me or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com or text the show at 519-820-7188. I'd love to hear comments, questions, and suggestions of Live with CDP Sports Talk, and maybe some future guests that you would like to see come on my show as well. And as I was talking to Sean Baligian, the Michigan Wolverines are 23-point favorites for the Big Ten Championship this Saturday night, 8 o'clock kickoff on Fox from Lucas Oil Field. It'll be Michigan 12-0 against Iowa 10-2. And Cade McNamara is going to be starting for Iowa against his former team in Michigan. I think Michigan will win this game 34-17. And I think J.J. McCarthy is going to have a good game, and Blake Corum as well. Also, guys, we have some hockey tonight. The Detroit Red Wings with their new addition of Patrick Kane. I'm not sure when he'll be in the Detroit lineup. The Wings are in New York tonight to take on the Rangers. And then tomorrow night, back to Little Caesars Arena, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Detroit Pistons, off to their worst start in franchise history, 2-15, take on LeBron James and the Lakers tonight at Little Caesars Arena. And hopefully the Pistons can end their losing streak and get a win finally. But that's about it. I want to say thank you again to Sean Baligian from WJR 760 for coming on Live with CDP Sports Talk tonight. And if you guys can give me a little bit of time, I will have the audio and the video of the show today with Sean Baligian downloaded and sent out as well. And I will be on Live with CDP. We'll be on WQEE tonight at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So check out my show there as well. And I'm looking forward to my next show tomorrow afternoon, Thursday, November 30th, 2:20 p.m. again with Adam Bottacucci from Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus, a weekly show that covers and follows the Washington Commanders. And Adam's going to come on and talk about the Commanders and a little bit about the National Football League. And there's a huge game this Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. Again, it's a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game between Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and the San Francisco 49ers, 8-3 against Jalen Hurts and the 10-1 Eagles. 4:25 kickoff. This time the game's on Fox from Lincoln Financial Field. So we're going to preview the Eagles Niners game and also to obviously talk about the Commanders and a little bit more about the National Football League. So I hope everybody has a great afternoon. And again, thank you to Sean Baligian from WJR 760 for coming on. And again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership here in Guelph and on WQEE 99.1 FM weeknights at 8 o'clock as well. All right. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you Thursday at 2:20 with Adam Bottacucci from Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus, talking Washington Commanders and National Football League.